Hi, welcome along to another edition of Business Success Secrets with me, Darren Bugg. Now today I am going to save you a lot of money, potentially several hundred, maybe even several £1,000s. How am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to show you how to submit your annual accounts to Companies House without using an accountant. And trust me, it is really simple, it's really easy, and it's really quick, and it doesn't cost anything. In fact, you can submit your accounts to Companies House in under 10 minutes, and it's really easy. You don't need any mathematical knowledge, you don't need any accountancy knowledge. It is really, really easy. So, just two things I need to mention before we go ahead with it. First of all, this is just for Companies House, not HMRC. Now, if you are submitting accounts to HMRC, that is for tax purposes. And I always advise people to use an accountant when it comes to calculating your tax bill, because they can help you pay as little tax as possible. That's why we all use accountants. But remember, for Companies House, it's completely different accounts, it's much easier, it's much more simple. So by all means use an accountant, but only for the things that you need them to do, and that is HMRC and tax. When it comes to Companies House, you can do it yourself, you can do it in under 10 minutes, and it's free of charge. I also just need to mention there's a really important piece of information that I'm going to give you right at the end. So please make sure you watch the whole of this film. It takes about 10 minutes, and at the end I've got some really important information to give you as well, which you'll find very, very useful. So without further ado, here is how to submit your accounts to Companies House in under 10 minutes. So the first thing you need to do is get onto the Companies House website and make sure you only use the web address that's on screen now. I'm going to give you that address again later on in this film so that you can take a screenshot. And then you click on the green button which says Start Now, which is fairly obvious, and there are some things you need to have ready before you start the process, and the main ones are the authentication code, which I'll tell you about later, and also your password, which you should know, and you will also be asked for a security code, and that's coming up a little bit later on. But before you get to that stage, it will ask you if you want to file for corporation tax with HMRC, and the answer for now is no, because this film is just about filing your accounts for Companies House, not for HMRC. So we're not doing tax, we're just doing the accounts for Companies House. And you get four possible options. Well, you won't be filing your full accounts or your abridged accounts, because that's just for really massive companies and they'll have an accountant anyway. So it's basically just going to be micro entity accounts. It could be dormant accounts, but you fill them in pretty much the same. But today, for the purpose of this film, I'm just going to show you micro entity accounts, and that will be the type of accounts that almost everybody watching this film will be filing. Now, before you start, you make sure you have your authentication code. You have to get that in advance in the post, and it can take up to 5 days. So if you haven't got it already, make sure you get it. You can apply for it online, but you have to receive it in the normal post. And I'd allow a week just to be sure. Once you get your authentication code, then you can use the same one every year. So the first thing you do, you have to sign in to web filing. And you put your email address in and you put your password, and make sure you're using the right password. That is the password for web filing, and it's important to make this point because you will have two different passwords. You'll have one password to get on the Companies House website, and you'll have a different password for web filing. And if you get the password wrong 4 times, then you get locked out of the system. So make sure you put the right password for web filing in, and that will be different from your normal password for getting onto the Companies House website. And then it asks you for a security code which gets emailed to you instantly. and it comes through straight away. That's my security code. I don't mind you knowing that code because it changes every time you do it anyway. And then this is a bit that a lot of people get caught out on. They see update your personal details, so they start filling it in. So they put in the name and then they put in the mobile number. But hang on a minute, you need to read this carefully. It says this is optional. You can update your details at any time. You don't have to do it at this stage. If you ever change your name or you change your mobile phone number, then you can change it whenever you want to. But, and this is the important thing, if you haven't changed your name and you haven't changed your phone number, then just ignore this. Click on skip, because otherwise you'll confuse the system. If you put the same name and the same phone number in, the whole system's going to get confused. So just click skip, unless you have got a new phone number or a new name. And I imagine most people watching this will still have the same name and the same phone number. So just click skip, don't put anything in those boxes. And then it brings you to the start of the web filing. So the first thing you have to do is actually click on the link to web filing, and that's where you will then need your authentication code. And you'll need obviously your email address and all the other personal details that you need to have to get started. So the first one is the company number. And the company number, you should know your company number, but if you don't know the number, you can find it very easily. Just click, well, just basically you can do it on Google. Just do a Google search on the name of your company and your company number will come up. Or you can even go onto the Companies House website and just put the name of your company and it will give you your company number. But you'll have your company number and all the details when you first incorporated the company. And then you get a choice of either Northern Ireland, Scotland or England and Wales, where your company was registered. Well, I imagine most people watching this film will have registered in England and Wales. And then you have to confirm that you've got the right company, which is correct. So just click confirm. And then this is the really important bit, the authentication code. Once you get it, you can use it every year, the same code. You don't have to get a new code every year, but you do have to get it by post, and I would advise allowing at least 7 days for it to arrive in the post. Keep it safe and keep it secret. It's just like a password, so do not let anybody else know what your authentication code is. And then it asks if you want to store your company details for future filings, for future years. I've just put no for the time being. You can do if you want to. I prefer not to, but if you want to, you can store it, and that just makes it a bit easier for future years. And then it comes up with your company details. Well, I run several different companies, but I'm just going to show you one of the companies that I run. And as you can see, my confirmation statement is up to date, but my accounts need filing. That's why it's in red, file company accounts, because that does need doing. If you're interested in how to do your confirmation statement, I've made another film on YouTube about that. Have a look at that other film if you want to know how to do your confirmation statement. Okay, and then it gives you the choice again, the type of accounts you want to do. It's already asked this, but it's going to ask it again. Microentity, abridged, dormant or full accounts. It's very unlikely to be full accounts or abridged accounts because a company that big is going to have an accountant or probably a financial director who's doing it for them. It could be dormant accounts, but I think most people watching this film will be filing micro entity accounts. I think that applies to almost everybody running a small business. The conditions, obviously, balance sheet has to be under 316,000, and there are also various conditions according to number of employees, that type of thing. But the vast majority of people watching this film will be doing micro entity accounts. And then you just have a few boxes to fill in. Now you can get these details from your accountant who will be doing your HMRC accounts, or you can just work it out yourself. It's pretty simple. The first one that a lot of people fall down on it is the called up share capital not paid. They miss that out. That is basically how many shares you issued when you first started the company. I issued 100 shares at £1 each when I started my company, so therefore you just put £100 in, and that figure never changes year after year. All the other boxes, I'm just going to put 0 for the time being, just to give an example. Obviously, when I do this properly, I'm going to put the real figures in, but just for now, to keep it simple, I'm just going to put 0. But one thing I do want to draw your attention to is that a lot of these boxes will actually fill in themselves. So if you put your fixed assets in and you put your current assets in, then it will automatically change. You can see on screen now, as I type something in, the total assets less current liabilities and the net current assets, it automatically fills in itself. So as you change a certain box, as you change a certain number, some of these boxes are auto-filled. They fill themselves in. That makes it even easier for you. So you need to put your fixed assets, so things like office buildings, vehicles, uniforms, any stock, that type of thing. Current assets is obviously stuff like money in the bank or any kind of current asset that you have immediate access to. Usually it'll just be money in your business bank account. Fixed assets, obviously things like buildings, vehicles, that type of thing. If you want to know what all these other things mean, I've made another film on YouTube which explains in detail what all the other things mean. You may already know. If you don't know, watch my other film on YouTube which explains what things like creditors and provisions for liabilities and accruals and total net assets, what all these things mean. They are pretty straightforward, but if you don't know, then just watch my other film on YouTube. And then capital and reserves. And then if you've got any employees, put them in here. Remember that if you get paid a salary by your company, then you are an employee. Even if you're a one-man band, even if it's just you running the limited company on your own, you still have an employee, and that employee is yourself. So don't forget to count yourself. If you take a salary, then you are counted as an employee, even if you're the only person in the company. Okay, so this is pretty simple. Then there's 4 boxes to tick, just to say that you've followed everything legally. You can read these things at your leisure, but you're going to have to tick them anyway or it won't work. So obviously read them, but you are going to have to tick those 4 boxes. You put the date in, and that could be the date that you're filling in the accounts, or if you have directors, if there's several people in your company, it's the date that the accounts were approved, which might be different. If you're a one-man band, then just put in the date that you're filling in the accounts. Put your name, and then validate and continue. And at this point, something interesting is going to happen, which I'll show you in a moment when it comes up, because it will come up with an error message. In fact, it'll come up with a couple of error messages. If you've put any punctuation in to the numbers, it will come up with an error message. Well, obviously I haven't done there. But it will also come up with an error message if you've done anything wrong. So it's impossible to make a mistake, really. As long as you get your figures right, then you can't make a mistake on this form, because part of it is auto-filled and part of it is basically if you do anything wrong, it will tell you and it won't let you submit your accounts. You can only submit them if there's no red boxes. And look here, there's a red box. So it's impossible to make a mistake because it'll tell you and it won't let you submit your accounts until you correct the mistakes. So what mistake have I made here? Well, it's really straightforward. It just says basically capital and reserves must be equal to the total net assets. And if you don't understand what that means, have a look at my other film and I'll explain it. But basically, in a nutshell, whatever your capital and reserves figure is, it's got to be the same as the total net assets. And so you can see the mistake there. Total net assets is 100, and that's just an example that I've just put just to show you how it works. But then in the section for capital and reserves, that has to be the same figure. So it's actually saying in the red, in the box, 00, which is incorrect because it's 100 for total net assets, but it's only 0 for capital and reserves. So it's really straightforward, really simple to actually correct it. It's just change it so the figure's the same, 100. So whatever it says for total net assets or liabilities, could be a liability if you're in debt, then obviously capital and reserves is going to be the same. So change them both to 100 so they're both the same, and then validate and continue, and then it works. So if you make any mistakes, it will tell you and it won't let you submit your accounts until you've corrected the mistakes. So you can't go wrong. As long as you make sure you've got your figures right, then everything will work. And then it gives you a summary here. Now you haven't submitted it yet. This is just giving you a summary and you still got time to change it. You still have time if you want to go back and make any changes. I'd suggest at this point you actually print this page, and it also allows you to copy and paste it, so you can actually highlight these figures and put them into Excel or Word or some other accounting package. So this could be very, very useful at this point. In fact, what I'd advise you to do before you even submit anything is get to this stage and then just highlight those items and those figures and paste them into Excel, and then you can do your workings. You can actually work out all the different figures directly in Excel before you actually submit your accounts, and you can do that every year. You can also print the page if you just want a paper copy, and it'll look like this. So if you click on the print page, then it gives you a summary in printed form. And you can also save that as a PDF file if you want to. But as I say, we haven't submitted them yet. There's still time to change if you want to. And there's still time to copy and paste these into Excel and to do whatever you want to do. So these are just examples here. But if you see there, it'll allow me to copy them, allow me to highlight. And then I can just click Control-C, copy, and then just paste it into whatever other format you want. I guess it would probably be Microsoft Excel or some other spreadsheet, and then you've got all those figures ready for next year as well. Makes it even easier. But I'm going to submit. Well, actually I'm not going to submit because those figures aren't correct, but this just shows you what would happen if it was submitted. It actually confirms that you submitted, and then you can print the page again. So it's up to you at this stage what you want to do. You can go back, you can make corrections. Until that point of submission, when you actually submit the accounts, you can go back at any stage and make corrections. I hope you found that useful. As you can see, it's really easy to do your accounts for Companies House without needing to use an accountant. And as I said at the start, make sure that you do use an accountant when you are submitting your accounts for HMRC, because they will make sure you're paying the right amount of tax. But for Companies House, it's really easy to submit your accounts yourself. And also the other thing you have to submit is a confirmation statement. And this is really important because you have to do two things every year to keep your company running with Companies House. You have to file annual accounts, which is free, and then you also have to file a confirmation statement, which used to be called an annual return up until 2016, and you have to do that once a year as well, and that costs £35, and that is even easier to do. So watch my other film. I've put the link in the description below. It's also going to appear on screen. Make sure you watch that other film because you have to do both those things. You have to do your annual accounts, and you also have to do a confirmation statement, which used to be called your annual return. They're the two things you have to do every year. The third thing is submit accounts to HMRC, and that is where you use an accountant. Only use an accountant where you actually need them. My name's Darren Bugg. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found it useful. I hope this will save you quite a lot of money. Please remember, I make films every week. My business success secrets are intended to help you. So please subscribe, please like, please share, and I'll be back again next week with more really useful tips for people running small businesses.